Hey, this is Brooks with Character Design Forge. Speaking of comics, today is the launch day of my comic Parcel Stitch in Time. It's finally ready. It's available in the link in the descriptions below. It's the comic that I've been telling you guys about and walking you through the process of for over a year. Really excited about that, but it doesn't have a cover yet. It does have a cover, but I want to walk you through in this video the process for making comic covers, the do's and don'ts, and some good things to keep in mind when creating comic covers of your own. So there are three basic principles that I want you to keep in mind when it comes to creating comic art, and this is in addition to just making good-looking art, right? That's marketing, contrast, and composition. So the word marketing sometimes has some icky connotations, right? It drums up ideas of like a used car salesman or someone using really shady tactics, but really marketing is just communicating something, right? And so a comic cover, a movie poster, a book cover, an album cover, they all have something in common. They're all trying to use a single image to convey an experience to you. Now, throughout the 20th century, comic covers were a series of eye-catching basic colors, usually playing out some kind of scene from inside the comic. So take a look here at the first Fantastic Four cover. You have multiple characters, you have speech bubbles, you have characters listed, you have sensational text. That's all on top of the logo and the price. So it's almost like a magazine cover with weight loss tips, mixed drink recipes, and gossip all competing with each other. Sometimes even in addition to these elements, comics would have little heads of the characters inside the comic in a row or column. Now, my personal taste is to go a little simpler with the cover. Just a few standout elements that you bring together to help convey something about the story or the experience of the comic. Spider-Man covers, even the first one, which did have speech bubbles, seems to do a good job of this. Usually these covers rely on a single action scene or a dynamic pose to draw attention. It's also good to consider what subject matter you're putting on the cover of your comic, whether or not it's something that inherently draws people's attention. And I'll give you an example of this. In the Silver Age of comics, there's a lot of villains that are gorillas or monkeys. So characters like Gorilla Grodd, or I think it's Metahumanite, right, is the other DC gorilla villain. And the reason for this is they actually did research and realized that a comic with a gorilla or a monkey on the cover way outsold one that didn't. Go figure. It's a fine line to walk between showing something from the story and giving the plot away, but it's even a finer line between showing a heightened reality and false advertising. For example, a car commercial that features beautiful lighting, the car speeding down a coastal road at sunset with no traffic, is a kind of heightened reality, but it isn't necessarily false advertising of the product. But if you were being advertised a car that was made of metal, and the one that you got was made of cardboard, then yeah, it would be. So keep this in mind with comics. We usually expect that the art on the cover is going to be a little more polished, a little higher quality than the pages on the inside. But if that disparity in quality is too big, people might lose interest. So if your cover is this beautiful, digitally illustrated painting, and the art inside is just this black and white sprite comic, just be wary. Of course, you want a comic cover that is eye-catching, and one of the best ways to draw the eye is through using contrast. So the word value refers to how light or dark or neutral a color is. And if you have a lot of similar value colors all clumped together, all light, all gray, all dark, then nothing really stands out. There's nothing for the eye to go to. But adding some contrast by having light and neutral, light and dark and neutral colors together, then there's something for the eye to go to. If you have very light values touching very dark values, you'll create a lot of contrast. So use this responsibly. As soon as you have too much contrast or too many things all demanding attention, then once again you're back to nothing asking for attention. Of course, all colors have value. It's not just grayscale. But if you're doing small thumbnails of your comic cover as preliminary work, doing some value studies can be valuable. Sorry. So for example, if there's a character that's the main focus of your cover, you want the eye to go to them, you want them to be high contrast. You also want to make sure that any words or elements that are supposed to be easily visible are also high in contrast. You want very light titles over dark backgrounds or vice versa. You don't want the text to blend into your cover. Now, composition is a factor in illustration or photography. It's basically arranging the elements that are in your image in an appealing way or to evoke a mood. When it comes to composition, don't just think about how your image looks flat on your computer screen in front of you. Think about how it would look on a shelf. Think about if you want the image to wrap around to the back cover and how you'd frame it that way. Also, make sure that all of the text or any logos are all cooperating with your image and not creating any tangents. Now, before I start my thumbnails, I just want a standard blank cover to work with that includes all of the text that I have, so that I don't make sections too busy or make any tangents. For the classic effect, you could add the company logo, the price, and the names of everyone who worked on the comic in the upper left-hand corner. Mine is arranged a little more like a regular book or a graphic novel, so my title and credit is at the bottom. I didn't concern myself with value in my initial sketches. More so, I wanted to find a dynamic, moving pose for Parcel in either a free fall, running jump, or float. Once I did choose my pose though, I checked on my values to make sure we had a mid-range background, a dark vignette, and some light and dark contrast as Parcel laid over this glowing circle behind her. Now, composition wasn't too intensive with this cover, as I'm not recreating a scene from inside the comic. There's no perspective to take into account. I'm simply putting a single character in front of some stuff. Now, however, I'm still careful to get her in the right place, arrange everything neatly, and make it so that the thread that's all around the cover looks haphazard, but is still drawing the eye in the right direction. As far as marketing goes, I'm trying to keep as much of the story hidden with this cover, even though you get little hints. And while there's a bit more shading and rendering happening there, the art style is just the same as it is on the inside. So no one should be in for a shock transitioning from the cover to the first page. So here's the final cover, and the comic is finally done. You can head over to the Gumroad link in the description or go to gumroad.com/bageldenizen to get a copy of your own. I've been working on this for so long. I've told you guys about how difficult the past year was, so I'm so relieved to finally get it out there, and I can't wait for you guys to read it. If this video helped you, please give it a like. That's it for me today. I'm making new videos every week here on Character Design Forge. Subscribing on YouTube lets you know when new videos are made available. My Instagram, Twitter, Patreon, and Twitch are all at BagelDenizen or just BagelDenizen, and you'll see links to those in a few seconds. Thank you so much for watching, and have fun creating.